They called him the Golden Man. Malcom Reed, philanthropist, real estate mogul, husband to a former supermodel, and the face of endless charity galas that painted him as the perfect American success story. Cameras adored him, politicians courted him, and the public worshipped his image. But behind that dazzling smile, there was rot, secrets carefully buried beneath money, influence, and charm. And the night his empire began to crumble, no one saw it coming. It started with a single mistake, a photograph that should never have existed, a moment that slipped past his control. The image surfaced quietly on an obscure online forum, a grainy photo showing a woman's terrified face inside a penthouse suite, strikingly similar to Reed's private residence in Manhattan. The post was deleted minutes later, but not before a young investigative journalist named Ava Kerr saved a copy. She didn't know it yet, but that single act would pit her against one of the most powerful men in America. Reed's story was one of transformation, or so the world thought. From a poor foster kid to a self-made billionaire, his rise was the kind of fairy tale the media adored. But in private, those who worked closest to him whispered about missing assistants, sudden resignations, and hush money. His inner circle called it the silence policy. And everyone who broke it disappeared. On the evening of June 5th, 2023, Reed hosted his annual Light of Tomorrow Gala, an event attended by senators, CEOs, and Hollywood's elite. Cameras flashed, champagne flowed, and Reed gave one of his signature speeches about restoring faith in humanity. But when he stepped off the stage, something was off. His usually unflappable demeanor cracked. His publicist whispered that the FBI had just issued a sealed subpoena for one of his offshore accounts. Reed smiled for the cameras, but his eyes betrayed something darker: panic. Meanwhile, Ava Kerr had been investigating him for 6 months. Every lead she touched seemed to vanish. Sources ghosted her, files deleted themselves, even her apartment was broken into once, though nothing was stolen. Still, she persisted. She knew something about Malcom Reed didn't add up, and then she found her proof. Through a friend in cyber forensics, she traced the deleted forum photo back to a hidden drive connected to Reed's company servers. The metadata revealed the photo was taken the night before the disappearance of a 24-year-old model named Clara Vance, last seen leaving a charity event hosted by Reed. The police had written it off as a voluntary disappearance. Ava didn't believe that. She reached out to one of Reed's former employees, a man named Daniel Lowe, who claimed Reed's security team ran private operations for their boss. Daniel agreed to meet her in a downtown cafe, but he never showed. Later that night, his car was found submerged in the East River. The autopsy ruled it an accident. Ava knew better. What she didn't know was that Reed was already aware of her. His surveillance network extended far beyond anyone's imagination. He knew every call she made, every message she sent, and even what time she left her apartment. To him, she was a loose thread that needed cutting. Yet, instead of silencing her immediately, Reed decided to play a game, a slow, calculated manipulation meant to destroy her credibility. He leaked small truths to her, pieces of real information mixed with lies, to make her question what was real. Within weeks, Ava found herself second-guessing her sources. Stories she published were discredited with evidence she couldn't explain. Her editor warned her to drop the Reed investigation or lose her job. But Ava couldn't stop. Something about Clara Vance haunted her. The way she vanished without a trace. The eerie resemblance between Clara and Reed's late wife, Vivian, a woman who allegedly died in a car crash 5 years earlier, though no body was ever recovered. That's when Ava found the connection. Using Reed's offshore financial data, she uncovered transactions to a private clinic in Switzerland, payments made under Vivian's name months after her supposed death. The clinic refused to comment, but one nurse, when contacted anonymously, whispered 3 words before hanging up: she's still alive. Meanwhile, Reed's perfect facade began to crack publicly. A leaked voicemail from an unknown source circulated online. His voice, unmistakable, threatening someone to keep their mouth shut. His PR team called it deepfake fabrication. Investors panicked. His stock plummeted. But Reed wasn't worried about money. He was worried about control. That night, in the privacy of his penthouse, he stared at the city lights while a private investigator briefed him. "The girl won't stop," the man said, referring to Ava. Reed smiled thinly. "Everyone stops eventually." He poured himself a drink, his hand trembling for the first time in years. Then he saw it, his reflection in the window. Behind him, for a split second, a figure moved, a shadow. When he turned, the room was empty. 2 days later, Ava received an unmarked envelope at her office. Inside was a flash drive and a note that said, "You're closer than you think, but not close enough." The footage on the drive was time-stamped 3 years ago. It showed Reed entering a luxury suite with Clara Vance. 30 minutes later, the same door opened, and Reed emerged alone. Ava froze the frame, zoomed in. Something on his hand caught the light. A ring, but not just any ring. It bore the emblem of the Solaris Foundation, a secretive charity Reed used to launder millions. She sent the footage to her editor. Hours later, he called her in a panic. "Ava, where did you get this?" The building in the video, it burned down 2 years ago. Everyone thought it was an accident, but Ava had already connected the dots. Reed had been erasing evidence, literally burning down every trace of his crimes. She knew now that if she didn't move fast, she'd be next. She booked a flight to Zurich, determined to find out if Vivian Reed was truly alive. On the night before her flight, she returned home to find her apartment door ajar. Inside, her belongings were untouched, except her laptop, which was gone. On the kitchen counter, a single item lay waiting for her, the same gold Solaris ring she saw in the video. Panic clawed through her chest. She turned on her phone flashlight, and on the wall above her desk, someone had written in red marker, "You're playing a game you can't win." Across town, Malcom Reed sat in his study, watching live surveillance footage of Ava's apartment. He smirked, leaning back as he whispered, "You're brave, Ms. Kerr." But bravery and survival rarely coexist. Unknown to him, the tables were already turning. One of his most trusted associates, his chief financial officer, Olivia Crane, had grown weary of his lies. She had been secretly recording conversations, compiling evidence, and copying hard drives. And that night, she made her move. Olivia walked into a secure vault under Reed's company headquarters, inserted a drive, and uploaded every incriminating file to a private encrypted server. As she left the building, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You think you're saving yourself? You're not." She didn't look back. She just kept walking. The next morning, news broke that the FBI had reopened the Clara Vance case. Reed's team scrambled. His lawyers went silent. And when he arrived at his penthouse to prepare a statement, he found his safe open and empty. The ring, the documents, everything gone. In their place, a single photograph lay face up on his desk. It was taken years ago. A blurry image of Reed and a woman, Vivian, standing in front of a burning building. Her eyes were wide, almost terrified. Written across the bottom, in a shaky hand, "You promised me I'd be free." Reed's hands shook as he crumpled the photo. For the first time in decades, he didn't have a plan. At that same moment, thousands of miles away, Ava Kerr landed in Zurich. Her contact was waiting at the airport, a nervous man in his 60s with a scar under his left eye. "You're here about Vivian Reed?" he asked quietly. Ava nodded. "Then you better prepare yourself," he said, "because she's not who you think she is." Before Ava could ask what he meant, the man froze, eyes widening in horror. A car sped up from nowhere. Tires screeched. A gunshot shattered the air. The man fell instantly, a crimson bloom spreading across his chest. People screamed. Ava dropped to the ground, heart hammering. When she looked up, she saw the shooter's face for just a split second. Calm, expressionless, wearing a dark suit and gloves. He lifted a finger to his lips. Silence. Then he was gone. Sirens wailed in the distance. Ava clutched her bag, trembling, knowing she was now in far deeper than she ever imagined. Back in New York, Malcom Reed received a single message on his encrypted phone. No sender. Just 4 words that made his blood run cold. She knows about Vivian. His glass shattered on the floor. His empire was crumbling. And for the first time in his life, Malcom Reed realized that he was being hunted. The city of Zurich shimmered under the night sky, but Ava Kerr barely saw it. Her hands were still trembling, the man's blood still warm on her jacket. The gunshot echoed in her head long after the chaos faded. She ran, heart hammering, every shadow a threat. Someone had followed her, someone who didn't want the truth about Vivian Reed to surface. She ducked into a crowded tram, blending with the passengers, eyes darting to the window. For a fleeting second, she saw him again, the man in the dark suit, calm, deliberate, watching her. Then he turned away, vanishing into the crowd like a ghost. Back in New York, Malcom Reed stared at the message on his encrypted phone. She knows about Vivian. Those words cut deeper than anything the FBI or journalists could do. For the first time in years, he felt cornered. Vivian, the one ghost he thought he had buried forever. He walked to his private bar, pouring himself another drink, but his hands were shaking too violently to hold the glass. The photo on his desk still haunted him. Vivian's terrified eyes frozen in that moment before the fire consumed everything. He had told himself she was gone, that the accident erased his mistakes. But deep down, he knew. Some flames never truly die. His chief financial officer, Olivia Crane, was nowhere to be found. He'd sent his men to track her down, but she'd vanished, leaving behind encrypted trails and disappearing funds. Reed's power was slipping, his empire rotting from within. The media was tearing him apart, the FBI circling like vultures, and now this journalist was digging up ghosts. He turned on the TV, and there she was, Ava Kerr, on every news channel. The network had broadcast her earlier recordings, naming him as the prime suspect in Clara Vance's disappearance. The anchor's voice cut through his thoughts. Authorities are now reopening multiple cases linked to Mr. Reed, including that of his late wife, Vivian Reed, whose body was never recovered. The glass shattered against the wall. In Zurich, Ava sat in a small motel room, blinds drawn, laptop open. She'd managed to recover a flash drive from the dead man's jacket before fleeing the scene. The files inside were encrypted, labeled with a single word, Project EOS. Her contact from the Swiss clinic had mentioned that same word before his death. EOS, the goddess of dawn, a rebirth. She ran decryption software for hours until one file opened, a video file dated 3 months ago. The image flickered, grainy but clear enough. Vivian Reed, alive, frail, sitting in what looked like a hospital room. "If you're seeing this," she whispered, eyes darting to the door, "then he knows I'm alive." Malcom isn't who you think he is. He's been running experiments, psychological control, identity reconstruction, using the Foundation as a cover. I was his first subject. The feed cut out. Ava sat frozen, her breath shallow. Vivian wasn't just alive, she was running from her husband. That meant everything Reed had built, his fortune, his reputation, was built on something far darker than fraud or murder. She uploaded the file to a secure cloud and reached for her phone. But before she could call her editor, the power in her room flickered and died. The air turned cold. The lock clicked. Slowly, the door creaked open. In the hallway stood Olivia Crane. disheveled, bruised, eyes full of fear. "Don't scream," she whispered, stepping inside. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to end him." Olivia explained everything. Reed's company had funded underground clinics to test methods of psychological manipulation on volunteers, many of whom were reported missing afterward. Vivian had discovered it, tried to expose him, and paid the price. The car crash, the funeral, all fabricated. Reed kept her alive in Switzerland under a false identity, her mind fractured by years of conditioning. But Vivian had escaped months ago, and she wasn't the only one. Olivia handed Ava a folder. Inside were dozens of photos, faces of people who had disappeared over the years, all connected to Reed. "He called them his rebirth program," Olivia whispered, "but it was torture. He erased their identities and made them someone else." Ava's stomach twisted. "We need to find Vivian," she said. "She's the key." Olivia nodded. "I know where she's hiding." Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Reed's world was collapsing. The FBI had raided his offices, confiscating hard drives and freezing his accounts. His inner circle scattered like leaves in a storm. Yet he stayed eerily calm. He knew he still had one card left: Vivian. If he could find her before Ava did, he could silence every threat in one move. "Activate the protocol," he told his head of security. "Bring her home." Back in Zurich, Ava and Olivia followed a trail through the Swiss countryside to a secluded rehabilitation facility hidden deep in the Alps. Snow fell in heavy silence as they arrived. The building looked abandoned, windows shattered, lights dead, but the faint hum of a generator echoed inside. They entered cautiously. In the hallway, old medical charts littered the floor. A faint voice drifted from a room at the end of the corridor. "Ava Kerr," it called softly. "I've been expecting you." Vivian Reed sat in a chair by the window, her once glamorous features now pale and fragile. But her eyes burned with sharp intelligence. "You're not safe here," she said. "He'll come." Ava stepped forward. "I need to expose him. The world needs to know what he's done." Vivian smiled sadly. "You think you can destroy Malcom Reed with the truth?" "He built the truth. Every lie you've uncovered, he planted." Olivia froze. "What do you mean?" Vivian's voice dropped to a whisper. "He made me." "He made you." Ava blinked. "What?" Vivian turned to Olivia. "You didn't tell her, did you?" Before Olivia could respond, gunfire shattered the silence. The windows exploded. A bullet tore through the wall. They dove for cover as armed men stormed the facility, Reed's private security. Olivia fired back with a small pistol she'd hidden in her coat. "Go!" she shouted to Ava. "Get her out!" Ava grabbed Vivian's arm and pulled her through a side door, down a narrow staircase leading to an underground tunnel. Behind them, shouts and gunfire echoed. When they finally burst outside into the snow, Vivian collapsed. "He'll find us," she gasped. "He always does." Ava knelt beside her. "Not this time." Then she saw the flash of headlights cutting through the trees. A black SUV screeched to a halt. Reed stepped out, calm, composed, wearing that same immaculate suit. "Ava," he called, voice eerily soft. "You've done so well, but you've seen too much." He looked at Vivian, his expression unreadable. "My darling wife. You should have stayed dead." Vivian's trembling hand reached into her coat and pulled out a small detonator. "You took everything from me," she whispered. "Now I take it back." Reed's eyes widened. "Vivian, don't." But before he could move, the ground shook with a deafening explosion. The facility erupted in flames, fire swallowing the night. Ava was thrown backward into the snow, the heat searing her skin. When she opened her eyes, Reed was gone. So was Vivian. Only silence remained, broken by the distant wail of sirens. Hours later, rescue teams combed the wreckage, but found no bodies. The explosion was ruled a gas leak. Ava was hospitalized under a false name, her story dismissed as delusional trauma. The files she'd uploaded were mysteriously erased from the cloud. Olivia Crane disappeared again, her last message to Ava reading, "He's not dead. Don't stop." Months passed. Reed's empire was declared bankrupt, his assets seized. Yet whispers persisted. Sightings of a man matching his description appeared across Europe, always near the ruins of old clinics tied to the Rebirth program. One night, in a dim London cafe, Ava sat with a fresh case file. Another missing person. Same pattern, same symbol. The Solaris ring, found at the scene. She closed her eyes, exhaustion pressing heavy on her. A voice broke the silence behind her. "You still chasing ghosts, Miss Kerr?" She froze. That voice. Calm, measured, familiar. Slowly, she turned. A man sat in the corner, face hidden in the shadows. The glint of gold on his hand caught the light. The Solaris ring. He smiled faintly. "You should have stopped when you had the chance." Her blood turned to ice. "Malcom Reed is dead," she whispered. The man leaned forward, revealing a face aged but unmistakable. "Death," he said softly, "is just another illusion I built." Before she could react, the lights flickered, and the man was gone, leaving only the faint scent of his cologne and a folded note on the table. Ava unfolded it with shaking hands. Written in neat, deliberate script were 5 chilling words. "Project EOS has just begun.